So, first ever official Moose with a Mic of my own podcast, not appearing anywhere else. I thought there really wasn't a better place to start with something that I'm passionate about with a buddy of mine, my buddy Red here, who's also competed, trained with, and I've known for 5 years at this point. That sounds about right. Because
Five sounds right.
I started at Liberty about 2020, and not long after, I think, is when you and me first started working out together and meeting. So let's start with a little bit. How many competitions have you done? What's kind of your background on it? What do you enjoy most about it?
Hell yeah, yeah. 5 years sounds right. I started at Liberty. I want to say it was like August of 2020. Did my first competition, beer bullies, in was February 2021, and then took a little bit of a hiatus. I'd been training with Roy, and then moved across the country. Moved back across the country a couple of years later. Got back to Liberty, and then had my second competition this past October 2025. So good, 4 years later. And so I've done two competitions now,
what
both lightweight men's, um, and had a good time each time. What were you gonna say?
I say between the two, do you feel like there's like a stark difference in like how you prepared for each of those?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, this is Casper.
I guess we're.
Um, Going into Beer Bullies 2021, I had been training with Roy. He was doing my programming for the months and months in advance. So there was a lot of great preparation there. I was also new to strongman because, like I said, I started at Liberty in 2020. So I'd only even been doing strongman for like 6 months. But I had trained the events. Like I trained Mammoth Bar, trained Log, trained Axle, trained Atlas Stones, yoke carry medley stuff. And then this next go around, I gave my probably I think I went back to Liberty like April of this year. So like 6 months of training. But at this point, I was significantly stronger just from having worked out at Liberty, knowing how to train strongmen, knowing how to prepare for my lifts, knowing how to warm up for my lifts better. So even though I did more specific training for beer bullies for Fright Night this year, I feel like I was more prepared just because I had the experience of that first competition and knew how to get myself ready for this next one.
I definitely feel like between the first and second competition you do, it's such a mentality shift. Not only like, okay, I know specifically how I need to train, or at least you're starting to understand, like, I don't need to do 40 minutes, maybe I need 10 to 15, or hey, I only need 5 or 6 pulls to warm up and kind of feel decent before going heavy. Versus there's just so much anxiety going into that first one because you've never put your body through that kind of like day, because it's not like training where it could be, let's say 2 hours for like a longer training session where it's, you're warming up, you're getting your things, you're kind of feeling it out and going for like specific things, versus some events or some competitions you're doing 5 events back to back, and you may get like 20, 30 minutes in between with the setups depending on how many people are competing, or if they have like an optional thing off to the side where it's just constant on your nervous system and like on your brain. Hey, I need to go as hard and heavy as possible and then break, and then hard and heavy break, hard and heavy break. So once you've felt that, I feel like it's easier to like train through that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And with that too, like before your first, I felt like before my first competition, I didn't know how to, I didn't yet know how to like one warm up for lifts, but even like what lifts I should do before going for a max. I mean, I was still fairly new to lifting and had that idea of, like, oh, let me warm up. Let me warm up deadlifts with a set of 8 and then a set of 4 and then a
Right.
set of 2. And then, oh, maybe I can PR at a heavy single. Uh, and realizing how much fatigue that is so not optimal for going for a 1 rep max
Right.
in general. So I feel like I just knew I know much better now how to measure out my jumps for when I am going for a PR, how to get warmed up for that, and then with that carrying that over to competition of, okay, the event is the 180 pound axle clean and press for lightweight men's. Uh, didn't quite get the clean and press. That would have been a PR for me, but I knew, I'm like, okay, I will feel warm with a couple of cleans at like 150.
Right.
And I'm like, I got the muscles firing a little bit. I got the blood moving a little bit. I don't need to lift 170 to feel like I'm comfortable to do a jump to 180. I don't want to lift that much if I'm gonna go for something that's literally a PR. Like knowing to go lighter, just to get the muscles firing for the lift is ideal. So I feel like I just was more prepared for this next competition just because of knowing how to time out my lifts.
And I feel like another factor that really helps, especially once you've done your first, is going into events where you can kind of like gauge your expectations, where not, maybe your deadlift is way better than your overhead, for instance. So you can go in and be like, okay, I'm probably not going to be the top guy on overhead. But when I get to deadlift, I'm going to be able to crank out 100 billion fucking reps on that and feel perfectly fine. And kind of just be like, okay, I don't need to put as much pressure on this. It's still just something you're training for and that you do want to do well. But you're not like, oh, it's the end of the world if I don't do great at the thing I'm ass at. And I think that also kind of helps in training prep you mentally so that when you're going in, you're a lot more comfortable with it and you end up having a better result anyway. Because you can have, like, let's say you're prepping and doing 15 reps on the deadlift and you do 16, that's cool. But if you weren't even expecting to get the overhead and you slam one out, even if you don't get as many points, that mental boost is going to help you the rest of the competition.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That, and like you were saying too, like knowing where you're gonna be able to succeed best and make up the most points. If that's not the first thing, then don't gas yourself out on the first thing. Leave
Yeah.
some room in the tank to succeed where you're gonna succeed.
And I feel like that's one of the things that outside looking in, not a lot of people like get right away. Is they assume, oh, you're gonna want to win and try and plan to win every single event. Very few people can do that, even at the top level. Like you have like Mitch Hooper, Brian Shaw, maybe Thor, and even some events he's kind of, he's less than on other athletes, but it's so hard to be that good that you just clear every event. Most of the time, the competitions are, if it's a 5 event, run, you do really good at 2 or 3, and you take the top spot in those, and then you kind of just do okay, and the other to keep your points.
Yeah, just making sure that you're not falling behind the pack, but you don't need to try and pull ahead with everything.
Right.
Like, I mean, when you're Tom Stoltman, yeah, you can win like 4 out of 5 events.
Right.
But when you're, for most people, it's like, okay, I need some seconds, I need some thirds, I might need like a first, but I don't need to win everything to get enough points to to podium.
Right. So when you initially did your first competition with Beer Bullies, was it something that like you just kind of wanted to try and see how you do, or is that something like your coach at the time, Roy, was like, "Hey, I think you should do this," and like kind of pushed you into it to see how you would do?
that was something I already knew I wanted to do. I'd been training before Liberty. I'd been training at Planet Fitness. Was really maxing out a lot of the machines there. I mean, when the row machine maxes out at like 180, then like yeah,
Right.
you gotta go to a real gym at some point. Um, and that's exactly what I was looking for with Liberty. I'd heard about strongman from listening to Robert Oberst on the Joe Rogan podcast, and then I watched that the show he was on. Him,
Mhm.
Eddie, Nick Best, and Brian Shaw, the was it, like strongest man in history.
Yeah.
I watched that and I was like, okay, I wanna I wanna lift some heavy stuff. I wanna lift some odd heavy stuff. I wanna lift Atlas stones. I wanna lift logs. I wanna deadlift. And when I reached out to Liberty to join, that's exactly what I said. I was like, I'm interested in joining Strongman Gym. These are exactly what I want to do. I got there. I did my first training session with Roy, and he was like, pick 3 lifts you want to try out for train today. I was like, perfect. Log, stones, deadlift. I'd never deadlifted before either. So we did that, and I was like, yeah, I want to do Arizona's Strongest Man. And he was like, beer bullies? I was like, sure, whatever it's called. Didn't realize Arizona's Strongest Man was just hosted by a different gym versus Liberty put on beer bullies. But hey, it works for me. It was still a great competition. Honestly, probably better, but I'm biased. I like Liberty, so
And it's fair to be biased. Like there's a lot of good memories at Liberty with different competitions and events from my time there. Obviously, I stopped going there just mostly based off location, but
oh yeah,
also there just some overtime shifts that have happened that I'll leave for now.
yeah. The community has changed a bit. Although it's like our late night gym crew. I don't think any of us are there anymore. Uh, Damien and Letty are at ATP. Roy's always over at his home gym or ATP. I think Damien and Letty have a home gym now too.
Yeah,
But like, a lot of the people who were there late at night, goofing around, chit chatting while we lifted weights, aren't there anymore. It's changed a bit, which is fine. I mean,
yeah.
that's
Everything changes as
normal.
we
That's
go.
natural. I was
Yeah.
gone for years and came back. I wouldn't expect it to be exactly the same. Still a good strongman community. I feel like I used to feel like it was like the mecca of Arizona strongman, and now I feel like having not been to ATP, I even feel like they're like the mecca of Arizona strongman.
I definitely feel like I mean, and I haven't gotten there yet. I'm planning to go there to test out a couple implements before I compete there in February. Is that just I competed with Adam in Power in the Pines a couple of years back before his gym started getting really popular. So to see how much just like online and talking to him a handful of times, how much effort and time and resources he's put in going from the one gym that they were located at before and just constantly throwing more equipment and better resources and really putting it out there and bringing in harder trainers to now they have that giant old UFC gym that's just full of such awesome looking equipment and they have such heavy lifters there and like that definitely seems like if not just the first image of it knowing what the fraction I know behind the scenes what went in on it is just incredible to watch and it's like you still have people there that are so hungry that are so committed to I'm gonna lift the heaviest fucking thing and win every competition. That's the kind of gym environment you get the best at, and that's what I liked about Liberty initially, because I'm not by any means one to call myself an athlete. I'm clumsy and I'm big as shit. I know that, but training there when you're lifting with people that are nationally, internationally ranked, medals, trophies, all sorts of shit, records it drives you to do better. And that's what initially got me wanting to try competition. Because you and I both know I'm not the most competitive person on anything. I'm more casual, go with the flow. I don't need to be the best. I just want to be there and have fun for the most part. So trying like the first couple competitions was so fucking jarring. So the first one that I did was, I think I was about a year into it roughly. I could be wrong, but it was Copper State Classic, which was
Oh yeah, yeah,
2021.
yeah.
That was at a parking lot in front of a law firm, in front of Jerry Pritchett with a custom short bus. And I had, I want to say, 7 weeks of training going into it, specifically for it. Um, Fucking couldn't pick up a sandbag. It was 250. Couldn't pick that bitch up. The log that me, Monkey, and I want to say his name was Tom. I've talked to that guy since the competition. We couldn't lift at least the 200-pound log, and it was a 250-pound log for reps for our group. So my only goal was cleaning that to my shoulders, which I got. Popped my back on the way up, which felt nice, but no fucking way. And then pulling a bus. I mean, I don't really even know how you super train for that in that short of a time, because you can do like sled pulls and shit, but the biggest thing is training the mentality for it.
Yeah.
And that shit was intense, especially because, and I don't know if you remember this, there was like a little like divot halfway through in their parking lot. So a lot of
Yeah.
people would
I
pull it
remember
and it
that.
would get stuck for a second, and then you'd have to try and force it back over. So I was
It's like, great, I
exhausted.
lost all of my momentum.
Oh,
Now I have to
100%.
restart it.
I'm like, I was dying. I had rope shards in my arms, my legs, all sorts of shit. And that was like the most grueling, but also one of the most fun experiences I had. Because it's like, how often can you say I pulled a fucking bus by hand?
Right.
Regardless of like how you
Yeah,
place.
anytime you tell someone you compete strongman, they're like, wow, so you just like lift all those crazy, heavy, odd things. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the easiest way to
Pull the
explain it.
bus.
Yeah, it's, I'm gonna pick up this awkward ass shit because I can. That's strongman in a nutshell. And I feel like that's also a big thing with like powerlifting, because a lot of people conflate the two when they don't know, as much about fitness
Oh
in the
yeah.
different communities. And it's like, yes, there are powerlifters that are strong as shit. You have people that are 225 pounds pulling like 1,000 plus pounds, which is insane. But you have to also realize that with powerlifting, they're only doing squat, bench, and deadlift. That's their only focus, is get those up as high as they can. Versus strongman, you have to be prepared to basically do and move anything, whether it's train pull, bus pull, stones, logs, circus dumbbell, yokes, sandbags. Like, it's such a like smorgasbord of bullshit
Like,
that
hey, you're gonna carry a sandbag, and then you're gonna carry farmer's handles, and then you're gonna carry a keg, and then you're gonna carry a yoke. And it's like, wow. Um, Most people, like people who don't train strongman, have probably never tried to run with any of these four objects.
right. And like the closest comparison that you can get is like with farmers when they're like, "Oh, you're gonna carry groceries in," and it's like, yeah, I mean that's the same basic concept, but the difference is with farmers you're
Yeah, but
carrying
it's
like
gonna
a
be
couple
like
hundred pounds a
200
hand.
pounds per hand.
Yeah, and it's way more intense because not only are you like trying to struggle through and lean forward and get all the momentum to run as fast as you can. I don't know if you've ever done it, but I've slammed the shit out of my knee with farmers way more than I care to admit. And that is like the worst
I
feeling.
I have not. I haven't done much farmer's carry. It's not really one of those things I work on too much, just because I don't know. I feel like a lot of just my deadlift strength carries over, so I don't like specify on it too much. Um, but when this last competition, I ran with them, dropped them, and jumped over them, and turned around and ran back. So I was like, I'm not hitting my shin on this fucking handle. Um, yeah, I knew that was something I did not want to run into. Uh,
I don't know that.
that's the thing too with like the technique. It's like, oh, you just gotta walk with this. No, I gotta run with it, and I gotta not lean too far forward while I'm running. And you also have to remember to breathe. You have
Right.
to remember to breathe. And it's
breathing
hard.
breathing is like one of the hardest things to remember because you get so hyper focused on I need to be at this specific angle running with those, or I need to make sure that the yoke is put in this very specific narrow spot for the best reaction from my body, that breathing becomes so difficult while bracing that that's where I've had a few issues where I've almost passed out because I'm like, oh yeah, I need to breathe, not just tighten everything and go for it. I need air to go with this as well. And
Yeah.
that is
That's
the
what got
scariest
me in the
moment.
medley this last time. Like
Yeah.
sandbag, I've run with sandbags plenty of times. And that's some cardio that gets you from resting heart rate, 70, 75, wherever the fuck you're at, to suddenly you're, oh, it's 140 and I sprinted 60 feet. That's
Right.
it. But it's hard to breathe with a sandbag on your chest. Keg was easy. Farmer's handles, easy. But then Zercher yoke carry,
Mm.
I've got it. I stand up and suddenly I'm like, I can't breathe. I've got a 600-pound yoke or whatever the fuck it was. And I'm like, I literally can't breathe. So I would have to take a couple steps, drop it, breathe, pick up, couple steps, drop it, just because my heart rate's already crazy. I'm dying for air, but I can't breathe and carry that at the same time because it was just too heavy for me to do both.
And I feel like that to bounce off that, that's also something that a lot of like strongman getting in initially have issues with is just finding the events that they're comfortable with that aren't just pure punishment. So like the Zerker's yoke, I absolutely loved. Like breathing did suck, but I think I got up to like 500 for 100 feet in training, and I would do that like regular. I love the Zerk. I hate the fucking sandbag. I would do Zerk yoke over that any day. But there are certain events that like just seem miserable, and it's you always find at least one or two weirdos in the competition that absolutely love it. So like for instance, I hate circus dumbbell with a passion. I get why it's a cool trick. I get the history of it. I get the technique and the power, but it just at the end of the day, that's one of those I hate that. And you have so many people, myself included, who end up dropping it on their head if they don't get the perfect lift. I don't know if you were at Liberty at the time. There's a guy who like ripped his ear open because it came
Ooh.
down at like a wrong angle. Or you have people that can't fully extend their elbow and end up just like hyperextending and hurting themselves on it. And it's like I get it, but it's one of those you have to find the masochist who likes it essentially. And there's a
Oh yeah.
handful of those events. Like Denny Stones, really cool. You have to be a masochist to try and do Denny Stones and not just do it for a record.
Yeah, I haven't tried Denny Stones yet, and I feel like a lot of it's because I'm like, do I want that metal ring just cutting into my palm? Like, let me go do a bunch of like barehanded deadlifts for a couple months. Make sure I get my calluses all up before I go do that.
that's
Train stones or something first.
that's definitely one of those you have to get such a good setup with hook grip if they allow it to really get like the good timing on it. Because if you get it right along like the top of your knuckle, not inside your hand, you get a better grip on it to help hang it. Otherwise, if you put it in your palm like a traditional deadlift, it would slide down and then hang, so it's just tearing your hand as it goes.
Uh,
That's one tip
and
that
then
I
it
got.
would it would probably slide over to this next knuckle too instead of
Yeah.
resting. Yeah.
So getting that initial starting point lower for it to just kind of hang, it ends up turning it into 100% masochism, but it sits better. Because that's
Yeah.
one of the events I had trained for, and I got up to, I think it was like 280 pounds and 250 pounds, because they have to be uneven. And
Yeah.
that was one of those, that was fucking miserable to train. There's
Yeah.
there's certain events I could train every single day if I could, and then ones I would do maybe once a year.
Like I'll train this when I have to, like 2 times before the competition.
So you were saying that what got you into strongman essentially was watching the Strongest Man on Earth, those guys, and Oberst talking about how deadlifts are terrible for you on the Joe Rogan podcast. Um, once you got into it, were there certain like athletes that you'd follow and watch their videos that really kind of took the lead as like these are your go-tos when you think of strongman to help you keep training?
Yeah, when I first started, I was watching a lot of Robert Oberst, but I got tired of his politics, so I stopped following him. I mean, he's also who I learned how to cut my shirts from. I was watching how he cuts his shirts, and I was like, oh hell yeah, it really does make your chest look fucking huge and shoulders and traps. Um,
And his big ass
but
head bigger.
definitely, huh?
And his head and his big ass head bigger.
Yeah. A lot of watching Brian Shaw. I was watching a lot of his YouTube stuff for a while. Um, watched a lot of Juju Mufu. Even though he doesn't compete strongman, he does a lot of strongman type events anyway. A lot of Martin Lisis Ortiz, like his stuff in his series that he's been doing, where he's been traveling all around the world doing odd object heavy lifts. That's a lot of like what was like my group of
Yeah.
inspiring strongmen.
And like, was it just something that you thought was cool and you wanted to do, or was there like anything else behind why you wanted to get into like strongman specifically? Because you were saying you were at Planet Fitness before. Was it just I just want to take the next step and this looks cool, or was it something like it felt like a calling that direction?
I'd felt drawn to it. I was, I've never felt drawn to powerlifting. Never really interested me. Um, I do all three major lifts, of course, but that's something I'm like, I'm not as interested in it. But with strongman, I'm like, I don't know. You see someone lift a giant fucking boulder, and the caveman part of my brain says, lift big rock. Let's go lift big rock. And there's like nothing more satisfying than lift big rock. It,
100%.
yeah, that's my favorite. That's why I like stones too. Not that I train stones very often, but when you put a fucking stone that's heavier than yourself on a fucking platform as tall as you, it feels pretty fucking cool.
100%. That's why, and I don't know if I've ever told you this story of why I started at Strongman / Liberty to begin with. Is at the beginning of 2020, I was like super suicidal, like full rock bottom. And I knew I needed to find some kind of outlet to help with that. So in my head, I'm like, well, if my body is doing something and my body is active, my brain is going to follow eventually. So I started looking around, and the first thing I actually saw was Eddie's documentary on Netflix, where he's talking about his road up
But
to the championships and deadlift and pulling in front of Arnie. And I'm like, okay, that looks kind of cool. These guys are actual fucking monsters that, walk among us, and they're pulling insane amounts and doing cool shit. So I looked it up, and there was only like, I want to say 3 or 4 gyms that had any kind of strongman equipment out in, Phoenix area. First one being Liberty. So I went there with Roy, and the first thing I ever did was stones and logs that day. Do not do stones on your first day. That is
that's
not.
what I did. I did stones and logs on my first day.
If you're unsure about it, do not start with stones because that is going to tear you up the first day. Um, that is
Oh,
my
I was
personal
bruised
thing.
my whole forearms on both sides, which like the bruising was more like aesthetic than it was from like actually lifting. Like I was fine with the stones. The bruising came from like the tacky pulling on my
Yeah.
skin. Didn't even hurt. Uh, but I went camping that next like the I trained on a Wednesday. I went camping that weekend with my ex in-laws, and they were just super impressed. They're like, "Oh my god, like you're all bruised up on your forearms," and like all the nieces and nephews are lining up to climb on a big rock. Jump, I throw them in the air, set them down. Next one, and they're like, "Oh my god, you're so strong!" Like just everyone's super impressed. I'm like, makes me love lifting stones more. They didn't even see me lift stones, but everyone's still impressed just from my massive bruises.
Right, yeah. No, the first time I did the stones, it literally I had skin ripped off. So I was still working at the warehouse at the time, so I'm trying to cover that so I'm not getting conveyor belt all over these raw ass forearms because they were tore up.
Loading UPS boxes, just big old fucking blood marks on them.
It was so bad. I had like bandages, like ace wraps on them for a day or two. Uh, that was fucking atrocious. Um, so as far as like strongman, when you think of like your personal top 5 events, which ones comes to mind? I'm not saying which ones you're good at, but just your top 5 to witness, train, whatever it may be.
When I think strongman, first thing I think there's always a deadlift of some sort, whether it be mammoth bar or some giant axle deadlift, or other all the other silly variations, silver dollar, whatever. But I mostly think of either mammoth bar or axle, log, and then there's always atlas stones. Those are immediately come to mind, and then I think of other like iconic things, and that's like pulling an airplane, pulling a fire truck, you know,
Yeah.
Conan's Wheel of Pain. Like those are the things that come to mind. And Hercules Hold. Marcus Felix Hercules Hold always comes to mind.
That man
For
is
all I
just a
know,
freak of nature.
he's on like a 30 minute straight fucking hold right now, probably just hanging out in his gym.
See, when I think of strongman, that for me personally, and this isn't ones that I'm good at. These my top 5 is always going to be the Atlas Stone, specifically the Atlas Stone head-to-head runs that they do at like Giants Live.
Oh yeah.
I think of the plane pole. I think of the log specifically. I think of the era of like Eddie and Big Z and Iron BB came at the tail end of that. Larry Wheels tried his hand, like seeing those guys with the log overhead. Um, Obviously, you have to think of like the max deadlift. Anytime you think of strongman, you think of like a big ass deadlift. And then it would be the super yoke, specifically when I think it was 2016. I could be wrong, but it was Brian Shaw with the super yoke at Rogue, where it had like the giant hay bales and shit on it. Where it was like 13,
Oh yeah,
1400
yeah.
pounds. Like those events where you just had these big monsters of people moving big ass weights and how intense they were. And I feel like that's one thing they've kind of tempered down, whether intentional or not, is it's less about being this big static overhead or big static lifter overall to you have lighter guys like Mitch Hooper who come in and they're not necessarily the strongest like static lifters, but because they move so well and they have such a big
Yeah,
tank,
they're explosive.
they
They're
just clear it
athletic.
out. Yeah.
They can put force into something.
Right. So it's like it's still super impressive and they're still strong as shit, but it feels like a little less on the strong and more on the athlete, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. There's just that different element to it, the agility element to it.
Right. And I feel like the amount of competitions that have gone up since like you and I started watching, there's so many more competitions now that when Mitch Hooper said, "Hey, I'm going to step away for a bit," I totally get it because I'm like, there's like what 30 Giants lives a year, plus the Arnold, plus Strongest Man on Earth, plus if you go over
Plus
to
Rogue,
plus
plus
Ultimate
like
Strongman and whatever else, and it's like the athletes now there's more money in it than there used to be, but there's also more events, so they end up burning out a lot quicker, and I feel like there's a lot more injuries recently than there was like 10, 15 years ago.
could be. I have no idea on like the injury rate, and I haven't paid too much attention the last couple of years, but I do love the fact there are a lot more competitions now, and some of them have like their staple events that are unique. Like the Arnold has their frame carry, that like incline frame carry that they
Yeah.
do. I love that they have that. That's unique to them. Yeah, there are a lot more competitions now, like Record Breaker series that's been going on ever since like COVID. They've started
Yeah.
doing that, which is I love because sometimes you just want to see a world record get set. And when you're watching World's Strongest Man, it's like, oh, we're doing, axle ladder for, you complete the axle and log like clean and press ladder. It's like six things, and it's like, well, this is about lifting these weights the fastest. It's not necessarily the heaviest weight anymore,
Right.
versus like going head to head where the weight just keeps going up until someone drops out. So those are the ones where you set world records. So it's like I like the Record Breaker series for that because you're not always going to have those opportunities at shows to see world records get broken.
See, now you're bringing up the record breakers. When it came to Half Thor's original 501 pull, how did you feel about that?
I watched it. It was really clean. It was a lot cleaner than Eddie's 500. The Eddie's 500 was in a competition, and just minutes before he broke the world record, him and Jerry Pritchett at the same time, pulling 485 kilos. They had, I don't know how many rounds of deadlifting they had done at that point. So I was much more impressed with Eddie's because the circumstances were so far from ideal as competition circumstances. Like we were talking about, you got to be ready for a competition versus this is Thor in his home gym. And I'm not saying the weights are wrong. I'm not, a, conspiracy theorist on any of that shit, but he was able to perfectly warm up, optimum conditions, no other events, no one else pulling, just get prepared for it and lift it. And so with that, at the time, I was like, I don't feel like this is world record. Like, I want to see it in a competition.
See, I'm in the same boat. I never thought that Thor used fake weights or anything. I always just thought, hey, you're doing this purely out of spite because Eddie pulled 500. And I'm like, Half Thor he could pull 500, 510. He could probably pull 525 if he really wanted to.
Yeah, and he's pulled 510 now,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
very impressive.
which that's something I'm very glad about because he legitimized it regardless because he pulled 501
Yeah,
again, he pulled 510, and I think even if he didn't put it up front that he needed to do that, subconsciously in his head he knew he had to do it again because
yeah,
there were so many questions about him doing it at home and not in competition and whatever it may be. He knew he had to do it again, and that was always my thing. Is I don't personally, and obviously I'm not the adjudicator on it. You should be pulling records or doing records when someone else can match you and touch the same weight because
yeah,
that's when you're going to get the biggest jumps. That's when you're going to get like the most intense out of it, and you're showing, hey, not only am I just good at this, like this is a whole ordeal. So like when Eddie did it, they did a whole competition and he did all the events and that deadlift and Jerry was pushing him. In 20, I think it was 2011 or 2013, they were doing an axle deadlift over in the UK, and Brian Shaw was there and Laws and all them, and they broke the world record like 9 times. If you only have one guy touching that weight in a home gym, you're only going to get maybe like a 410 kg deadlift. But if they're going head to head with all these other people around you, they bumped it up to like 420. And then, the next year, then Eddie jumped it another bit by like a kilogram or two from the past person. And then eventually he did 500. Well, now you have Thor coming in and doing it by one. You have a competition, he gets 510, and it looked way better, in my opinion. So it's like you really do need that drive and the people around you trying to push you to get there. And I feel like that was lost in that whole debate. It wasn't so much like, oh, we're trying to shit on Thor for being Thor. We understand there's a pandemic and shit going around. But
yeah,
at the same time, you lose a little bit of that spark that makes strongman great is you have people yelling for you to beat them that you don't get in other sports.
Yeah, like that's the thing too. Like obviously it was COVID times, so and not just COVID times, but 2020, but when everyone was very isolated or very rambling about something. But uh, yeah, I mean, it would have been if it was at a competition and there were others there, other great deadlifters there with the opportunity to try and shoot for 501 as well, it would have been much more impressive. Given it's impressive. It's way the fuck more weight
Right.
than I have ever lifted or probably ever will lift. I'll be really surprised if I ever deadlift 501 kilograms. Uh, but my point is like, yeah, he had optimal warm ups versus the competition setting, like, and others there to try at the same time. So it just didn't feel the same.
Right. It didn't have the same like catharsis behind it because you knew he could do it. It's just you're not going about it the right way per se.
Yeah.
And it kind of diminishes it a little bit, especially that. And I know you can agree with me on this. Is strongman is very unique in the competitions, and the fact that no matter what's going on, 99 out of 100 athletes are going to cheer for you to do better, even if it means beating them. And you're going to have one guy that might be shitty, but overall, like any competition I've been to, that I've done myself, even if I'm necessarily going to beat someone or not, you want them to do 100% and PR everything and do better because it makes you better. But also, I feel like that's just the community aspect of it. Is strongman, we may look big and scary, the community as a whole, but everyone I've met's been a giant fucking teddy bear.
Oh yeah.
Like,
And everyone who trains strongman, I feel like there's a lot of like, why did you want to get strong? Oh, because I didn't used to be. And I know what that's like. I wasn't naturally strong. Or, a lot of people it's like, oh, I used to be the skinny kid or I used to be the fat kid. And then it's like now we're all just buddies, lots of nerds, and it's like, oh, I just want to lift big weights. I like being strong. I didn't like how I felt about myself before. And so it's a lot of people with a lot of similar like backstories of like body dysmorphia and just wanting to be a better version of yourself. So everyone's there excited for everyone else becoming a better version of themselves too.
100%. There was a Strongman Sunday a couple years back that I distinctly remember the coach at the time being like, "Hey, like for the group, why did you guys all start?" And round robin, everyone's answer was the same: depression or some variation of, "Hey, I needed something to help essentially my whole being, physically and mentally." And that's such a cool like niche thing that strongman has, where as soon as you get into it, you find a group of people that want you to do better and support you regardless. And not every sport has that. You might not get that with powerlifting because that's more of like an individual thing, and sometimes you'll find good communities. Basketball, football, like all the other sports, it doesn't feel like you get that same immediate community because not everyone has that initial, I remember feeling like shit. I don't want you to feel like that, so I'm going to here to help you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such a trait that needs to be spread more because with other sports, you're not going to get as many people going out for them other than, oh, basketball is popular, I'm going to do that. But then you get shit on by however many people and people stop playing. Versus you go into
Yeah.
strongman, they'll want you to push you and do better. A lot of people from those competitions that I've talked to while being there, they never even planned on competing initially. It was, hey, I was told I should try this for fun by my coach because I've been doing decent at the gym. And then it's like the most fun they've ever had, and they leave with a medal. It's just,
Oh yeah. And so much of the community just wants wants to just cheer you on, wants to give you helpful feedback. Like I was warming up for the axle clean and press in this last one. I did a split jerk. I didn't bring my feet back together and let the bar down. And one of the other guys in my weight class, he's like, "Hey, if you do that, make sure to bring your feet back together, or the judges aren't going to count it." I was like, "Oh yeah, thanks for the reminder." Like,
Yeah, just those little things.
you could have said nothing and be like, "Ha, fuck you." Look, you didn't get anything. Even I didn't get the log any or the axle anyway. But like, could have been a dick. No, another guy. Lots of people giving me feedback on my sandbag toss. Uh, Apparently, I just did not know the correct way to toss sandbag. Uh, so that was that was all on me. I was getting high enough and just wasn't getting it over the bar.
It's such a fine timing aspect of that too, where it's like when I was initially trained on the sandbag throw, it was arms straight out, and I had to remember eye level. As soon as eye level hit, let go because you're arching that way. But
Yeah,
then you go to someone else, like Eve trained me another way, where it was instead of coming out in front of you, she was literally just exploding and doing a little curl at the top, where it was almost like a
yeah.
high pull and then a throw. And
That's
it's
what I was trying to do, but it was not going backwards in it for me.
right.
It was going straight up, which was great, but it wasn't going backwards.
I also think that's a cool aspect of strongman, where you have five, six, seven different ways to do one event. Like, for instance, log press. So I've always been pretty good on the clean aspect of it. In my brain, I always go fuck the ceiling, elbows back to get it up to the shoulder. But you have people doing a split jerk, a push press, just incline benching it up, like whatever they need to do, and taking little aspects of each for whatever feels best for your body. It's such a cool experience when it all like fully clicks.
Oh yeah.
So like for me, you have to watch at least like 10 to 15 people and 100 reps total before I feel like you really get comfortable in a form where you're not just faking it to make it.
Yeah, log. I feel like the technique trend has changed over the last handful of years. I feel like 5 years ago, a lot of it was like push press uh, for log, but then with his name, World's Strongest Gay,
Rob Kearney.
Rob Kearney. Yeah, like he, I feel like he made it really popular to split jerk it, and then ever since he was doing that and being significantly smaller than some of the other strongmen out there, but still putting up great log numbers, a lot more people are like, oh, I guess I could do that too. I don't have to just push press it.
Well, and I think with that, another aspect is a lot more like CrossFitters have been coming over to Strongman. So
Yeah.
like that happened a lot at Liberty. You saw a ton of people coming over, and they're so explosive in their movements, especially on those split jerk, where they know, hey, if I get that perfect split jerk, I'm moving it 3 inches instead of five or whatever it may be, and they just get that snap. They just come in and dominate. And it is insane how quickly a lot of those athletes are able to come over with their mindset already on very strict technique, where they just pick shit up super quick. The only downside to that I've seen personally, and I would love to see more like data on it, is it doesn't feel like a lot of those athletes have the same like capability of grinding out a rep or grinding out a lift, because
Oh
they're
yeah.
they're
Like
so
if the
used to
rep
snap.
feels bad, they're quick to bail, which
Yeah.
makes sense for like a lot of like people who do CrossFit or Olympic lifting, because it's one of those things like, oh nope, it's bad, dump it. Like,
Right.
not doing that one. It's all about getting the technique perfect before getting the weight heavy. But sometimes you just gotta fucking grind it out and do something that feels really uncomfortable, which obviously there's a lot of risk to it. That is plenty of how people get injured, but it's a mentality that you gotta have. You gotta be okay with doing something wrong or doing something like not perfect and the risk of it being painful, but just pushing through it. just getting that shit done anyway.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like that's something I've had to deal with too. Because like I have a in our friend group, I have a famous video of what I call the moose press, that I did during a powerlifting comp, where it was like a 30-second bench press because I got it like halfway up. I want to say it was like 270 pounds or something, and it just stopped. Wasn't coming down, wasn't going up. It was just stopped like halfway up. And I just kept going because I'm like, look, I'm either going to drop this and I might die or break ribs or whatever, or they're going to take this off me, but I'm just going to keep pushing until one of those things happen. And after like a solid 30 seconds, I finally got the bench and racked it. And my coach, Justin, broke the chair because he jumped out of his chair so aggressively that I actually managed to fucking do it. That it's like, if I had just gone, oh, this isn't going, and someone had to take it, I wouldn't have gotten the light. I wouldn't have gotten. I
Yeah.
think it was 2 white lights and a red. And you kind of like that. Those moments are where you're really testing how much you care and how much drive you have for it. Where the CrossFitters, they do have the drive, but they're so trained on, if this isn't gonna go clean, I need to conserve the energy for the next rep. When it's like you could win based on that rep. Especially the biggest one I've seen it on is deadlifts, where if that initial start isn't good, it's just they let go. But if you watch strongman, a lot of the big lifts, they're grinding the whole time. They're really
Oh
pulling.
yeah. You've got to you and deadlift is a lot of mentality too. There's a lot of mental aspect when it comes to deadlift because it is a lot of fucking weight and it's off the ground. But as long as you're keeping your lower back tight, I feel like just keep fucking pushing. Just keep going for it.
Yeah, and for me, deadlift is one of those that is your mental reset when it comes to like the gym or weightlifting or whatever it may be. And that's one of the reasons this year, pretty much every month, at least once, I go in and I go to either my home gym or I go to the actual gym I pay for. And at least once a month, I have to pull at least 400 pounds. I don't care if I feel like shit. I don't care if I feel like I'm great and it's the best day ever. I need that mental reset. And deadlift's the only thing I feel like really resets that.
Oh yeah. It's when you lift a lot of fucking weight, it's hard to not feel proud of yourself. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about deadlift is the number is just so big. Like I could probably bicep curl something that is heavy for me and be proud of myself. But if I deadlift a weight that's heavy for me, if I just go and I pull 400, pull 405, whenever I do that, I feel absolutely fucking proud of myself every single time.
And it's one of those, there's not a lot of like incredible factors for equipment. Like you could go in and do like a really cool like row with different equipment or specialty bench or whatever it may be, or use cables. But when it comes to deadlift, it's just the weight is there and is are you going to be able to pick it up or not? There's not
Yeah.
as many factors. And that like raw cathartic feeling of I got this up is so great, especially once you get into strongman. I know I had this. I'm sure you have some aspect of it as well, where you just get that dysphoria where like you don't feel that strong because of who you're training around.
Because you're training around giants.
Right. So like 400 pounds, I think is not a ton of weight, and for some people it's not. But you go to a Planet Fitness and EOS, you go to the average person, they're not picking up 400 pounds. They're not doing
No.
it with help or anything. And it's like, oh, you really need to like take a step back and go to a general populace aspect of it and like ground yourself and be like, no, I'm doing this thing that's cool. Because we trained with people that were benching 500 pounds, deadlifting 900 pounds, doing crazy, overhead lifts and whatever it may be. So we feel like shit until we go to a normal gym.
And then yeah, like oh, here's what general population people do. Not not a whole lot, and most of them don't deadlift. Given there's a lot of like fear around deadlifting. A lot of people who aren't lifting weights all the time, new to the gym, they'll just be afraid of like being by the people lifting heavy weight. Uh, it's a very different atmosphere. But yeah, they're generally not deadlifting a lot of fucking weight.
And that's a good thing to pull it back to is I feel like a lot of people do end up getting like almost scared of deadlifts. A part of that would be like Robert Oberst going on Joe Rogan and saying, it's not worth it. But there's caveats to that. And I think one of the caveats for Robert Oberst is he was never really good at deadlift in any of the competitions he did. He's one of those, he was very good at overhead press and he was pretty solid on like some of the carries and stuff. But he
Yeah.
was never known for his deadlift. So
Yeah, I think of him more of like when I think of him in lifts, I think of him doing like log press. I don't
yeah.
think of deadlifting.
Yeah, so it's one of those people here that they go, oh, well, he's in World's Strongest Man. He must know exactly what he's talking about with deadlift. That's not necessarily true, because even when you watch the videos where he's training with Brian Shaw's training him the very basics of deadlift. And it's like, if you can find someone or find a way to train basic barbell deadlift, that is the most useful lift, because you get so much good core training, your hamstrings, your back, that I've never seen someone like collapse picking something up from the ground if they have a solid deadlift without an injury.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of fear
Yeah.
mongering.
Yeah, there's so much fear mongering. And honestly, it's an incredibly safe lift. Everyone's like, oh, deadlifting, that's so dangerous. You're gonna ruin your back. Hell no. You can have some spinal flexion. It's good. Mid, upper back. Keep your lower back tight. Like I said, great core training, traps. Honestly, I get a bicep pump a lot of this fucking time. Uh, hamstrings, glutes, like lots of muscles work. But then if you're lifting it, and if something starts to hurt or your lower back starts to flex, just fucking let go.
Right.
It's like the safest fucking lift. Like you just drop it. It's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna smash your toes because the bar is gonna be fucking 9 inches higher than them. It's not like bench press where it's like, oh, what do you know? Someone was bench pressing alone in their garage and died again because they didn't use fucking spotter arms. That's shit actually happens. Versus getting hurt on deadlift is like, I don't know, because you're pulling something that you shouldn't,
Right.
that you're not prepared for. Uh, or it's like because you wanted to grind out that rep, and honestly, usually you're just like stiff for the next few days. But if I'm ever worried about a deadlift, if I know it's not going to go, if I feel unsafe with it, I just let go. It hits the floor, it hits my deadlift platform. Or if you've got bumper plates, then you could just drop it straight on the floor anyway, and it doesn't matter. I've got both, but
Right.
it's you're not damaging your floor, you're not hurting yourself. It is an incredibly safe lift.
Yeah, 100%.
Big asterisk, not a doctor, but
Not health expert. Um, and then just to kind of like finish out for today on this, when you think of your strongman like Mount Rushmore, who is on yours?
ooh, Big Z, absolutely. I think Big Z, Brian Shaw, Tom Stoltman. I know he's got plenty more years of crushing it, and I think he already has 3 world's wins. Um, how many people on Rushmore? Like five,
There's four.
four,
Yeah, so
four.
you got one
Okay,
more.
so I'll pick one more. The Big Z, Brian Shaw, Tom Stoltman. Hmm. I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot of strong men I love, whom I wouldn't necessarily put on there. You know what? I'll put Big Laws on there. He's been around the community for a long time, and he's a commentator at like every event because everyone loves hearing him.
I feel like
So
he's also just
I'll
like
throw him.
he was so consistent in his career too. I feel, and that's very
Yeah.
underrated.
And
So
and he's
like,
coached a lot of greats. He still coaches. He coaches a lot of greats.
hell, he was coaching Mitch Hooper when he broke through and won fucking everything for a while.
Yeah.
Um, which is insane to me. I think he was also helping coach Andrea Thompson and a few other of the ladies that are
Oh
breakers
yeah,
there.
yeah. And she won World's Strongest Woman, right?
Yeah,
At the time.
after the controversy this year, they disqualified the other person, so she won again post.
Okay, okay, okay.
Um, but for me, when I think of my Mount Rushmore, I feel like you can't have a Rushmore without Big Z and Brian Shaw, just because they were so dominant head
Yeah.
to head for so long. Um, but then I'm like, okay, it's a weird conversation in my brain of, do I go with people that are just iconic or just the people that were purely best at this sport? So for me, I'm always going to put Eddie on there, even though it wasn't a long run and he didn't win necessarily a ton of international. The fact that he did 500 the first time and he's brought so many people into strongman, I have to put him up there. And then
Okay.
for my fourth, it's honestly probably going to be Kazmaier. Um, Only
Okay.
because he was so dominant, they literally had him stop competing for a while because he was just destroying everyone in the late 80s and winning three in a row. And then for me, I'm also a little biased for Kazmaier because he then went into the WWF at the time and brought some strongman to that, which had more eyes go back the other direction. Where I'm like, he was such an early pioneer and so dominant that he kind of crossed into both worlds and brought more eyes to both.
Yeah. And you said he's got how many World's Strongest Man wins does he have? He's got four, right?
Kazmaier has
Five?
three.
Three? Okay.
Kazmaier has three. Magnus for Magnuson has four.
He's got four, yeah.
Pujanowski's got five. Brian's got four. Z's got four. I think Tom got his third.
He's got four, but he stepped away to do the other strongman competition for like 4 years in a row, and he won two of those.
Yeah,
So in a way, he kind of has six. But
yeah.
even that, like he officially has four World's Strongest Man wins, but very much, yeah. There's no way he's not like the first face on Rushmore.
Oh, 100%. That's why when Mitch Hooper brought up that he's the greatest of all time or could be the greatest, I'm like, this is way too early to talk about that because I think Big Z has like 145 trophies where he's either won or podiumed at events. He's got records. Brian Shaw's got
His
how
trophy
many?
room is huge.
Right. I'm like, these are people that have stayed consistently for at least a couple of decades. Mitch Hooper, as great as he is and as many as he's won, he's only been here for a few years. So I think it's one of those,
Yeah,
we'll look back in, another 5 years and maybe he is up there. So,
yeah. It's too early to say greatest that he's the greatest of all time. Way too early to make that call. Can he be? Yeah, but yeah, we need some more time. We need some more World's Strongest Man wins. He's got one right now, right? But he's podiumed a few times. Couple of I know he's placed at Strongest Man on Earth at least a
so
couple times.
yeah, he's won Strongest Man on Earth. He's won World's Strongest Man. He's won, I believe, Ultimate Strongman, and he's won the Rogue. Because I think it was like
Okay.
out of the 29 competitions at the time that I saw, he had won podiumed like 124 and then podium the rest.
Okay.
So again, incredible, but it's burst fire.
Yeah. Like
So
we gotta see this for a few more years.
so
I mean, like Brian Shaw is up there among the greatest of all time because he's got four World's Strongest Man wins, and he hasn't won a World's Strongest Man trophy since like 20,
2016.
he won in 2016.
Yeah, 2016 was him. 2017 was Eddie, and then Thor was
Okay.
2018. Because Brian
Oh,
Shaw won 2011, 2013, 2015, 2016.
okay. Yeah. Which, now he runs his own competition. He doesn't do World's Strongest Man anymore. He finally retired, but even in the like 8, 9 World Strongest Man competitions after that, he's still podiuming almost every single time.
Yeah,
Like
he's going.
that's someone who's up there among greatest of all time.
Yeah, that's one of those you really have to earn the consistency before you can call yourself one of the greatest. Because,
Yeah,
people were training specifically to try and take on Brian and Big Z and even Thor, where Mitch Hooper hasn't been around long enough where people are training for specifically against him. They're prepping for him to show up and do well, but he hasn't really changed the game of it. And I feel like with Brian and Z, they did.
yeah. With Z, it's like, okay, but where do I make up points since I know he's going to win the pressing events? And with Brian Shaw, it's like, where do I make up points since I know he's great at stones and I know he's great at any tossing event, keg toss, sandbag toss.
Yeah,
Like, you have to consider the strategy around them versus with other athletes, it's like, okay, they're probably going to do well, but I'm not trying to train to do better in areas that I expect them to not do as well.
right.
Like instead, you're just training your own strengths for the sake of doing well.
And then finishing out, do you know what competition you're going to do again? Or which one you're going to do
I'm
coming up?
figuring things out right now. Um, we are we're less than 2 months away from ATP, less than 3 months away from beer bullies.
I'll say you have the full
So
picture because both of them have posted their events and their weights.
yeah, they're both completely posted. There's always the possibility of just doing both, but I gotta figure out. I gotta get back on a regular, consistent training schedule. Figure out what I want to do next, competition wise, and of course, I gotta get prepared to move in April. So,
Yeah, no, one hundred
um,
percent.
but yeah, keeping it open. Um, but between the two, ATP, I feel like I would do better with. I haven't really trained circus dumbbell, so I'm not like I expect to not do as well with that at beer bullies. Also, the starting axle is like 200.
Yeah,
It's some shit like that, and I already didn't get 180, which I can lock in on pressing, which isn't my strength. I can lock in on pressing and get that better, but um, got Denny Stones, Mystery Medley. Yeah, no one's. Tire flip. I enjoy tire flip,
yeah,
but between the two of them, I probably do better at ATP.
yeah. ATP definitely has what I think of as the more traditional events where they're just focusing more on like, hey, these are big heavy movements,
Yeah.
with like the Hercules put into it. So for anyone who watches this, I'm going to be competing at ATP. That's going to be my first one since 2024, 2023. I feel like the end of 2023. Um, and that's mostly just because I had my arm tear in 2024, which took me out almost the whole year. And then this last year has been mental and getting back into it. So for me, I wanted a more traditional heavy event than the mix and hybrid events, just to kind of feel out where I'm going to be. So I'm gonna record that, get some like behind the scenes, all that. So if you compete, obviously I'm gonna shit talk you, but I'm also gonna support you. Same thing if you do beer
Oh
bullies,
yeah.
I'll come there and just be support. After looking at those events, I'm totally good not doing beer bullies. Um, but I, if you guys watch this and you haven't done strongman, give it a try. Just don't try with stones first. You're gonna find the best community. Did you have anything else you wanted to say on here as far as like strongman, powerlifting, anything like that?
um, don't be afraid to deadlift. can always let go of the weight.
Absolutely. Thanks again for watching, everybody. This is Moose with a mic. Have a good one.